Man finds Pitbull tied to a tree inside a park with a note and gets the surprise of a lifetime when he reads it. Dogs aren't just cute, but they are extremely intelligent too. They can understand the intentions of the other person, which most people fail to understand. They are not just the adorable pets, they are compassionate too. They are great with kids and often take care just like the baby's parents. Eric, the protagonist of the story, used to adore dogs until one day his life changed forever when he stumbles upon an abandoned pit bull with a note tied to a tree. Eric Mouse was a screenwriter by profession, and stories would often take him to places. Whenever he used to get time, he would pack his bags and go on a trip to find stories. He used to live his life to the fullest and do whatever he wanted to do. What, we can't fulfill all our desires. And there was one particular desire that was always on his wish list, but he wasn't able to fulfill it. He was always the person who used to live in the moment and would never leave any of his desires unfulfilled. But then what was that one desire that he wasn't able to fulfill, and why? He always liked the idea of adopting a dog, but due to his frequent travels, he knew that he wouldn't be able to take care of a pooch. Pooches are no doubt the cutest of all the pets, and everyone wants to have one. But then they are huge responsibilities too. Just like a baby, pooches are no doubt the cutest of all the pets, and everyone wants to have one. But then they are huge responsibilities too. Just like a baby, they need attention, care, and love. But most of the time, people fail to understand these small things and buy or adopt a pooch without thinking. As a result of this, the pooches can get depressed and they may run away from the house. Whenever he used to see a dog with its owner, he would feel bad because he couldn't have one. There were times when he even went to the pet shop, but used to return empty-handed. This would often make him sad. Often he used to volunteer in the local shelters, and this would give him peace. Would he never adopt a dog of his own? Eric wasn't a person who would sit handheld. He had to find a way, and luckily he even found it out too. He knew he couldn't leave his job because he loved it, but at the same time the desire of having a dog only increased. So one day he was talking to a vet and he suggested Eric an idea which made him jump out of joy. What might he have suggested? Being a full-time screenwriter wasn't an easy job in Brooklyn, and his job was getting in the way to adopt a pooch. So he started working as a part-time dog walker. This allowed him to have different dogs, and also their responsibility wouldn't come over his shoulder. Dogs, too, seemed to love him and used to enjoy his company. That day, too, he was walking his clients on a Monday morning when he saw something heart-wrenching. What might he have seen? It was his daily routine to take the dogs out for a walk, and that day, too, he was with his two special clients, Gouda and Lily, who totally adored him and loved to go on a walk with him rather than their owner. That morning, when Eric was about to exit after walking around the park, they refused to go out, so he decided to explore the other side of the park and was completely unaware of what he was going to encounter. Prospect Park is not just a beautiful place, but it's peaceful too. It was his favorite place to write, so that day Eric decided to see the other side of the park with the pooches. The waterfall was the calmest place inside the whole park, but he wasn't expecting to see something that would probably distraught his peace. What did he see? When I was walking up to the waterfall across the bridge, I saw this really big, chubby pit bull tied to a tree. Was the dog all by herself? The dog had wide eyes and was expectantly looking at everyone who was passing by. Was she lost? He saw that the pooch was tied to a tree, so he thought he might be overthinking. But then where was her owner? Eric was looking around and was expecting to find the owner. He waited for a while, but it seemed like the owner was nowhere near the pooch. Eric was confused and didn't know what to do. He was concerned about the dog's safety because he knew that pooch wasn't safe all alone in the park. So he said, "I looked around and I called out to her, 'Hey, where's your owner?' What would he do now?" The pooch just looked at him, expectantly with wide eyes, but Eric was completely clueless. Gouda and Lily were now becoming restless and were dragging him with them, but how could he just leave the pooch there and go away? He had to do something, but what? Prospect Park isn't a good spot for a dog to be alone, explained Mouse in an interview. Again, he looked around if the dog's owner had come, but he could see no one coming near the dog. He knew something was wrong. He had to find a way to help the pooch, but first he needed to figure out certain things before he could help her. So he went near the pooch. He was going near the Pitbull, but was also aware of the temperament of these dogs. They were known to be quite aggressive, so he was a little scared because he had 2 more dogs with him. He didn't want to put their lives in danger, but at the same point, he wanted to help the pooch too. So he started to take steps in the direction of the pooch. Would the pooch be able to understand his motives or become aggressive seeing a stranger coming towards her? Unlike pit bulls he had seen before, this one didn't move an inch when Eric stepped towards her. Rather, she was calm and expecting someone to come near her. Eric was becoming more confident now and came really close to her. He bent down on his knees facing towards her. It seemed to him that her eyes were filled with pain. He tried to comfort her and caressed her head, and then he saw something on the tree that made him anxious. What could he have seen that made him anxious? The tree had a note hanging on the bark of the tree. A few of its lines were written in Sharpie. From the note, Eric came to know that the pooch's name was Mama's. It said that the dog was friendly, which he somewhat knew when he came closer to the pooch. Now it was clear to him that the pooch had been abandoned, and he wondered how could someone abandon the pooch like Mama's. He was sure that there might be some big reason behind it. He could guess that the owner might have left with no option, that he had to take this step. Still, a lot of questions were running inside his mind. He was thinking of all the reasons why anyone would abandon a sweet dog like her, and then he thought of reading the note. What did the note say? The note wrote, "Take me home. I'm a great dog. I'm 7 years old. Don't let my size scare you. I'm sweet." At the top of the note, the pooch's name was written, and that's how he knew that her name was Mama's. It seemed like whatever was written in the note was true. The dog was indeed really sweet, and unlike any other pit bulls, she was friendly and calm, and anyone could have picked her. But what would Eric do now? The pit bull was being so sweet and so gentle, said Mouse in an interview. She was just laying there, tongue out, so cute. He knew that he had to save this abandoned pooch, but what would he do? He was alone with 2 more pooches. There was no one else he could ask for help. Suddenly, an idea clicked inside his mind, and he took out his phone. What was he going to do? He looked around to find someone so that he could help the pooch, but there wasn't anyone near him, so he thought of posting on social media. He posted the whole story on his Facebook page that was frequently visited by the people from his neighborhood. He asked the people for a piece of advice, saying the following: "Found this dog tied to a tree near the boathouse in Prospect Park." And he was surprised that the post got a huge response within no time. What did people say? Mouse put a post on Facebook saying, "There's a note on the tree that says, 'Take him. Who do we call?'" And after a few seconds, his Facebook post was flooded with comments. Soon a person arrived in the park to meet Mouse and the dog. He even brought a car that was parked outside and helped Eric to transport her. Where was he planning to take Eric and the dog? So Eric, with his 2 clients, rushed to Sean Casey Animal Rescue along with Mama's and the man. Mouse walked the pit bull through the park. She was a bit slow because of her weight, but there was something else too, which they would probably find out later. As they got the pooch inside the car, a drastic change was observed by the 2 men. They were reluctant and thought for once that she might not trust them to go with them anywhere after her own owner had left her on her own. But they were surprised when the pooch excitedly jumped inside the car without hesitation, as if she knew that she was going to a safe place. What were they going to do with her? When we took her out of the car, it seemed like she was ready. Not only was she ready, but she basically jumped out of the car, which was a really good sign. She knew that she was safe. He was grateful to all the people who came forward to help the abandoned pooch, and especially the man who had come all the way to rescue the pooch from this situation. But what would they do next? The founder and the owner of the nonprofit organization told in the interview, this dog was incredibly lucky. He further added that this wasn't the only case that they had encountered. They said that they get several calls a week for dogs that have been tied out here or cats left in boxes. This revelation was disheartening for Eric and the other man. Eric was now able to guess why the owner would have left such a sweet dog in the park with a note. It was clear that the owner was now unable to take care of the pooch anymore, and thought this was the best thing he or she could do to make the rest of her life better and safe. But what he or she didn't know was her condition might have deteriorated if she wasn't given the required help. While examining the pooch, they came to know that the pooch had a bladder infection, and she wasn't yet spayed. This made Eric and the man a little worried, but the vet assured them that she can be treated and there were no complications in her treatment. This statement made them smile instantly. The vet added that she would be up for adoption in a week. And surprisingly, this wasn't it. What more surprises were coming on the way? Soon Eric and the man left the vet's clinic when Sean assured them that she would be fine. Eric didn't want to leave the pooch there all alone, but then he had to go home and get ready to go to the office. The pooch too was looking at him with wide eyes as if she too didn't want him to leave. But he had 2 more dogs to be taken care of, so he left the place and promised the pooch that he would soon come back to see her again. While he dropped the 2 pooches at their respective houses, he went straight back to his apartment. He could only think about the pooch and wanted to go back to her. But he was already getting late for work, so he rushed to his office. He called the vet to check up on the pooch in the afternoon. He wanted to give the pooch a better and secured life. What was he thinking to do? In the evening, when he came home, several thoughts were running inside his mind. He always had a desire to adopt a pooch, but due to his time and financial issues, he could never adopt one. But that day, he was again thinking about the same and wanted to adopt Mama's, and he felt an unknown connection with her. Would he finally adopt the pooch? In the midst of the chaos, the dog had gained popularity and had become quite famous because of social media and the local news. She was doing much better now, and the vet had arranged for her operation. Eric wanted to be present at the time so that he could take care of all the necessities. He was actively looking for people who could adopt the pooch and thought it would be better if she found another safe home soon. So he went online and posted the news on several platforms and waited for the replies. He came to know that the vet had given the pooch the required medication, and she had started to lose some weight and was looking more active than ever. The note that had been hanging on the bark of the tree was true. Despite being a Pitbull, she was really calm and loved everyone around her. She had instantly become the apple of everyone's eye, and they were thinking that it would become so hard for them when they would have to give her away to her new owner. A spokesperson of the shelter said that Mama's is settling in well, and she likes everybody and everything. Due to her affectionate personality, Eric knew that she would find a new home soon. He knew any family would be lucky to have her as a pet. In an interview, he said, "She's a total sweetheart with big brown doughy eyes. She's just a happy dog. She wasn't just large in size, but her heart seemed to match that size too. And now she would be having a bright future ahead because of her rescuers." Eric tried to be with her as much as possible. He knew that she would be gone soon, so he didn't want to waste any time. He used to come directly from his office and would often be there with her, and would go home the next morning. She had become more playful than before and wasn't lazy at all now. The vet was happy that they found her and rescued her too from the dreadful situation. He was sad thinking about all the pooches out there who had been abandoned by the people when they thought they couldn't take care of them. But what they couldn't understand is that they were doing injustice to the pooch, just like the Pitbull's owner who had abandoned her and didn't even think what would happen if she didn't get any help. Sean said people shouldn't abandon the pooches like that because it wouldn't be helpful for them, and if at all such a condition comes, when they couldn't afford to take care of the pooch anymore, they should consult a local shelter or their known people for advice, because it might help the pooch and to save a life. In an interview, Mouse said that he had a dog when he was a kid and recalled that he went to the pound to adopt the pooch. After that pooch, he didn't adopt any pet because he knew with his living conditions, he wouldn't be able to afford one, so he couldn't do injustice to a pooch just because he liked them. Mouse said that he would have loved to adopt Mama's, but unfortunately his living situation doesn't allow for it. But in an interview that he gave later, he said, "It's moments like these where I want to raise awareness about adopting rather than buying your next dog or cat. Adopted pets are the most loving pets there are. He advised everyone that whosoever wants to pet a dog should always adopt one rather than going to buying it, because then maybe they would be able to provide shelter to maximum pooches and save their lives. Would he become successful in his mission, and especially in finding a safe home for the Pitbull? A month later, Mama's got a kennel of her own at the shelter after being rescued. Sean gave the good news to everyone in the shelter. Soon after that, she finally got a home of her own, with all the comfort and necessities, and now she would be able to spend a comfortable life with her new owner. She would have a roof over her head and people to take care of her.